All right, all right. Welcome into the second half draft show brought to you by Couch Potato General Manager. For those of you familiar with Couch Potato General Manager YouTube channel, glad to have you. Those of you who are new to it, just as this show title suggests, we're going to be covering 2023 draft prospects throughout the college football season, the 2022-23 college football season. And of course, we'll be projecting them. There will be rankings, there will be mock drafts, there will be scouting reports, there will be, X's and O's associated with these prospects. So enjoy the ride. We'll be meeting every Friday night throughout the season. Then, of course, we'll kind of revisit our programming schedule as the off season rolls in, because that's really our peak season. But again, with respect to the show, we're focused on 2023 NFL draft prospects. And Drew, it was a very interesting week last week.
Yes, sir.
Some of those marquee players, the guys that we already have kind of pegged as blue chip prospects. Of course, things can change. Things are subject to change. It's a fluid situation, but most of those guys showed out. There were a few guys that maybe have disappointed in the grand scheme of things, but certainly didn't do anything necessarily to hurt their stock. So I'd like to start with the Oregon-Georgia game. I thought
blowout
was very much one-sided. It was very one-sided, absolutely. But lots of star power, lots of talent there on the UGA side. Of course, there's some NFL prospects that play in Oregon as well, but very, very one-sided affair. And let's start at the top, man. Let's start with Jalen Carter and your impression of how he performed last Saturday.
I mean, he was the man in the middle, the monster in the middle. If you didn't know, he's number 88. I don't listen when you talk about Georgia's defense from last year. He was the best player on that defense. Defense isn't as good as it was last year, and obviously he's still going to be the best player on that defense. Heavy hands.
I mean, that's high praise. That's high praise. You know what I mean? To suggest that a guy, and Jalen Carter, who was an underclassman, wasn't draft eligible last year, was the best player in the defense when Georgia had the first overall pick in Trayvon Walker. And then, of course, Jordan Davis goes in the first round as well. We all know about Nakobe Dean. I mean, there was no shortage. Channing Tindall was a day 2, maybe early day 3 pick. Yeah. No shortage of talent made it into the NFL. And we're suggesting Jalen Carter is better than all those guys.
Yeah, he's the best guy, man. Right there in the middle. You can't miss him. We do have a short on the channel that you guys should go check out. It's going against I think it was the guard or the tackle. I can't even remember, but
yeah, I think it's the guard.
He just obliterated him, and that's what he does. And it's fun to watch, and it's funny to watch. It's so ridiculous. Sometimes you just watch football and you're like, you can't help but laugh because it's just so ridiculous in terms of what he can do there. So yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch in the season. But he dominated in that Oregon game.
He's a unique blend of power and flexibility at his size, the leverage that he plays with. What happens is he ends up getting under the pads of those interior offensive linemen. It's a wrap. There's nothing they can do with him. You know what I mean? Being a bigger guy, you don't expect him to be able to play with that kind of leverage on a consistent basis. But he's incredible. The consensus number 1 prospect going into the season was Will Anderson, the edge from Alabama, who we'll talk about heading into this week's contest. But Jalen Carter is not far off, and depending on how this year plays out, we could have the argument. There could be an argument to be made that Jalen Carter is actually the best prospect in this class as opposed to Will Anderson. Let's move on. Let's move on to a very interesting contest in FSU versus LSU. And Drew, I'll give you first crack at Brian Kelly and the fact that he didn't have his team prepared to play. We also there's a verse. There's a scripture, a verse in Florida State that really, became a household product, a household name here. So tell me a little bit about what you thought with respect to that particular contest and some of the prospects therein. Of course, as we move on, there's tons of prospects in Georgia. We could spend a ton of time there, but let's move on to FSU LSU.
Yeah, so with this game, man, you could tell one team was ready. This is another game where one team was ready, the other team wasn't. Florida State, all they really had to do, man, is just contain the quarterback, force him to pass, and you just kind of seen that. But listen, Kayshon Boutte, number 7, You wearing the number 7, that means you're special. That means you are the guy. And
man.
You're supposed to be the man. And on Sunday night, you was a shell of your former self. You know, this is the guy who, you know, was the biggest thing for me was just stay healthy and you know, he could be the top wide receiver off the board. And he didn't show up, man. I don't know if he wasn't happy because he wasn't getting the ball. I'm not really sure. You know, word on the street is he's one of those locker room, I don't want to say it, man, but cancer maybe. I don't know, you know. And so I don't know, man. Maybe just I don't know what that's. I don't know, man. I'm not really sure, but hopefully he can get his head screwed on right and he can turn things around, because having an attitude is a big problem when you talk about prospects, and it's a red flag and those things you don't want. So we'll see what happens there. But in terms of Verse, Mr. Jared Verse, coming off the edge, transfer from Albany. Matter of fact, somebody hit me down in the comment section of the short. I seen it. Yes, I got it wrong. It's okay. It happens. Listen, I'm going to butcher words. I'm going to make some mistakes. Just let me know down in the comment section and we can talk about it. But this is a guy who played with, I mean, he's trying to make it to the league, man. Power, speed, relentlessness. I mean, he was a problem from the word go. You know, along with I think it was is it Lovett?
Yeah, Fabian Lovett, Robert Cooper, the big guys in the interior of that line. Yeah, they control the line of scrimmage. They really did.
And I'll say this too, real quick for FSU. I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, but LSU pretty much their offensive line they wiped the slate clean in terms of bringing in. It's essentially a new crop of players. So
yeah.
You know, just temper your expectations a little bit. I think your D-line is good. I think they're gonna play well this year. But just temper your expectations if they don't go out in the next game when they play a quality opponent and they don't dominate like they did against LSU, because that quarterback was running for his life.
You know, one of the guys that kind of stood out in that game that perhaps wasn't necessarily on everyone's radar was Ontario Wilson, receiver from FSU. He kind of reminded me of Rashad Green. Yeah, number 80.
Yeah,
reminded me of Rashad Green a little bit. Now, Rashad Green is the most decorated receiver in FSU's history, but the question then becomes, does he project to the next level? Traits is, I mean, it's here to stay. That's part of the conversation. It's not always about production per se, but I was impressed by him. And then another player who I think has excellent traits, and Mekhi Garner, cornerback from LSU. You know, of course, Boutte is kind of the talk of the town, Ojulari, in terms of the pass rush, but in that secondary, I really like what I saw from Mekhi Garner. Long, tall, physical corner. I think just the traits in of themselves will get people's heads turning with respect to him. So keep an eye on number 2, the cornerback for LSU. Drew, let's talk about your Florida Gators holding serve against Utah.
Y'all see?
And of course, the talk of the town, the toast of the town, is none other than Anthony Richardson.
Yo, AR-15, he ain't going by that, but we can call him AR, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, man, he balled, man. You know, coming into the season, you know, a lot of talk was, well, you know, initially, well, I'll say this. Initially, when I was reviewing, I was like, you know, people are kind of giving him a little too much, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, he hasn't really proven anything. The man's thrown 39 passes total. Like, let's chill, man. It wasn't pretty last year. There was some coaching issues and everything. They cleaned house, brought in Billy Napier, and things seemed to turn around. You know what I mean? He goes out there, man, and listen. He's got the running ability of a Cam Newton, but his arm talent is superior to Cam Newton. And listen, if he can master the in the pocket game, first pick, he's gonna be the first quarterback off the board. You can talk about Bryce Young, you can talk about CJ Stroud, you can talk about Jarren Hall, you can talk about Will Levis, you can talk about whoever you want to talk about. But if he puts it all together this year, it's a wrap. I mean, He's special. He's doing things that I don't think anybody in college football can do right now.
Yeah, when you start talking about, again, you know, we revisit the conversation regarding traits. When you start talking about traits and what scouts are looking for, you know, we just saw last night how Josh Allen put on a clinic. You know what I'm saying? There were some turnovers there, a little sloppiness, but certainly, you know, Josh Allen didn't necessarily have sterling numbers coming out of Wyoming. You know what I mean? But he goes to the Senior Bowl. He impresses there. Comes a top 10 pick, and of course he's developed. He wasn't necessarily what he is now out the gate, but you can see how far along he's come. And when you talk about those kinds of tools, and when those types of players figure it out, the confidence becomes the main staying power, right? Once a player is confident, once a player is playing with a certain level of confidence, they start to do remarkable things. They start to become really, really impressive. So definitely a excellent performance by Anthony Richardson. We'll see if he can continue it. A couple other guys that you wanted to mention: Brenton Cox, Ventrell Miller, pair of defenders there at UF, and then the pair of tight ends from Utah, including Dalton Kincaid and Brant Kuithe. Your thoughts on those players?
Dalton Kincaid and Brant Kuithe. These are the weapons for outside of the running back that they had, who actually played well. These are the weapons for Utah for Cam Rising, the quarterback who potentially could be a draft prospect as one of the top quarterbacks. Those guys. I mean, Dalton Kincaid, Brant Kuithe was the guy. He was the main guy. He was the problem, and I think part of it was Florida was thinking like, we're going to stop the run. You know what I mean? Right. We're gonna maybe let things behind us a little bit more than they probably should have, and those guys took advantage. And when you talk about Ventrell Miller, I want to make sure I don't butcher his name. I'm going to butcher names.
That's what we do. That's what we do around here.
Let it be. This is a guy who was injured last year. I think he played 2 games, and you could just see him in the middle of that defense. It was much needed because it was marshmallowy last year in the middle of that defense, and part of that was scheme, and part of that was play at the linebacker position. Brenton Cox, I think he had 9 or 10 tackles. He was all over the place. Didn't get any sacks or anything like that, and I don't think he was asked to do that in that game. But he defended the edge like he was supposed to, and this is the guy I'm looking for. What I'm looking for from him is just more from the pass rush department. So hopefully this week they'll get an opportunity going against Kentucky.
Yeah, pin his ear back and get after Will Levis. All right, let's move on to another marquee matchup in Notre Dame versus Ohio State. Tons of 2023 NFL draft prospects in this particular contest. Of course, CJ Stroud is the headliner here. A lot of folks, somewhat disappointed with his performance. It kind of reminded me of last year, perhaps a little bit of a slow start, but I thought he managed the game, all things considered. You know what I'm saying? Notre Dame, again, has professional talent, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. So I don't think Stroud did anything to hurt himself, but he didn't wow. And I think that's going to be part of the conversation in terms of how this whole quarterback situation shakes out. We're anticipating quite a few first-round quarterbacks in the 2023 class. Stroud will definitely be among them, but it just remains to be seen in terms of whether or not he too can kind of overcome the stigma associated with those Ohio State quarterbacks. What do you think of his performance and some of the other prospects in that particular contest?
It was about what I expected. I mean, he's going against a really good Notre Dame defense, and some of the issues that I have with Stroud, one in particular, I did clip it. I'm gonna throw it up on the short for you guys. Is he just doesn't run. Like, he wants to sit in the pocket. He wants to throw it down the field. Usually and he's an athletic quarterback. And usually with athletic quarterbacks, that like to, like I say, they like to run, but usually with those guys, they'll think they're thinking to run before they actually will pass the football. He's the complete opposite. He wants to sit in the pocket. He wants to extend the play, but he wants to stay in the pocket. He doesn't necessarily want to run. And I think he's got to be able to do that, man. And like you said, he did start slow, but he'll be all right, man. I mean, he lost his star receiver, Jaxson Smith-Ngiba, early. Brandon Joseph, the safety from Notre Dame, knocked him out of the game. He came back in, but he wasn't really. I think he caught one pass. Wasn't really effective. I think it was his shoulder, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong. Somebody hit me in the comment section. But yeah, man. And they changed the game plan in terms of what they wanted to do. Ohio State. They said, man, we want to go out here. We want to throw the football all over the field, but it wasn't working out the way they wanted. So they said, hey, we're just going to hand it off to these 2 running backs that we have and let them tote it. And we're going to play power football. And the word on the street was for Notre Dame boys, soft. The boys soft, man. And that wasn't a soft game if you watched it. It's a lot of hard hitting, and
Notre Dame's defense kept them in the game. Notre Dame's
absolutely
legitimate kept them in the game. You know what I mean? Their offense failed them. Didn't help them at all. So, Couple other prospects in that game. To your point, you mentioned Jaxson Smith-Ngiba. Of course, we're expecting big things from him after the incredible performance he had, particularly in the bowl game. I mean, obviously, all of 2021 was great for him, but that Rose Bowl performance was one for the books. And with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave heading to the next level in the pros, it's supposed to be his show, along with Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that's he's part of the conversation as well, but maybe not quite draft eligible if memory serves me correctly.
I think so.
You have Isaiah Foskey, the edge from Notre Dame. I know that's a player that you really like, as well as offensive tackle Paris Johnson from Ohio State. Your thoughts on those two players?
Yeah, Foskey, this is a guy, I love his hands. He's long, strong. He's got this special power move that he likes to use. One hand, press back. I don't know what you want to call it. I really like it. He did perform it a couple times in that game. They kind of shooed him away from Paris Johnson. Paris Johnson played well, although Foskey got him about 3 times, but for the most part, he was going against the right tackle for Ohio State. Paris Johnson plays the left tackle. Paris Johnson has good feet. He just gotta be able to get his hands coordinated with them feet consistently, and I think he'll dominate because he does have a mean streak. Once he gets some hands on you, he's locked in. That grip strength, he's looking to pancake you, which I really like. But Foskey, I think he might be the best outside linebacker / defensive end in terms of dropping back into coverage. He's very natural, very smooth at it. I just want to see a little bit more in terms of pass rush ability.
Definitely. Moving right along, we have Georgia Tech versus Clemson. This is the last of the games that we're going to review as far as the 2023 draft prospects that we wanted to highlight in the second half draft show. So, Drew, Jeff Sims, I thought, acquitted himself well, all things considered. I think it's a supporting cast conversation. There were some instances where, they had some screens set up that could have popped for something, and we have offensive linemen jogging and loafing out here, man. So I take his performance with a grain of salt, but there's certainly things to like there. I want you to talk about him a little bit, but I want you to start with Bryan Bresee. He's back, he's healthy, and he looks like a monster. And I think he's going to a blue chip prospect coming out of high school. I think the expectation. Clemson has had a history, really talented defensive lineman. He could be among the most talented of that crop that is kind of churned out first rounder after first rounder. There's some guys that may not necessarily have panned out at the NFL level, others who have been solid, but he to me, he strikes me as a guy who could be special among that group. What about you?
Yeah, he's you could put him in the class as a Jalen Carter in terms of the disruption that he causes up front, what he is to that Clemson defense. He is the monster in the middle of that defense. And I think it was the second or third snap of the game, he made a play. They were kind of, how they introduce, impact players, and as soon as they put his name up on it, boom, he makes a play.
Yep.
And like you said, he's coming off of an injury, and I'm just looking to see. I just want to see more of him. You know what I mean? I think he's definitely going to be a first round pick, barring, knock on wood, injury. Listen, the fastest way to the quarterback is the defensive tackle position,
right to the middle.
He's a guy that can do that with heavy hands. He's got some ability in terms of moves to evade or avoid offensive linemen. But yeah, I like Bresee a lot.
And underrated quickness at his size.
Yeah.
And he looks huge too. He's bigger than ever.
He does.
He's a tank. They call him AKA Hulk. They call him the Hulk, man. He's a problem. He's a problem. Yeah. He has, like, to your point, he has an opportunity to really, help himself. I think certainly, area scouts, NFL draft scouts, so on and so forth, they already know what kind of talent he has. But the injury may have put him out of sight, out of mind for certain individuals. I think he's here to really, reestablish himself. If at all, if need be at all, I think he's here to reestablish himself. A few other, notables throughout last week. Sean Tucker, very talented running back out of Syracuse. He had a quality game. Your guy, Jacoby Wyndham from Michigan State, making plays. Check out the short on the YouTube channel. Joey Porter. Let's talk about Joey Porter a little bit for Penn State. What do you like about Joey Porter? You and Hadley, who join us next week in this live, seem to be big fans of his. Why do you like Joey Porter so much? Big, strong, physical, and he's looking to
to lay somebody out, man. He's got the swag you want from the position, and he's a. Does anybody know who Joey Porter is? Joey Porter Sr. is. That's his boy. They play different positions.
Lineage. Football lineage.
Hey man, that's a thing. You know what I mean? That's a box that's checked when you're talking about scouting a player, man. And I think he has everything that you want from the position. He's fast. He's got it all, man. He'll turn. Moment of truth is no issue for him. So yeah, man, he's top 5 corner. You know, some people, he's not my number 1, man. But that game he had last week kind of made me reevaluate my list here, man. Gotta take another look at it, but you know.
What about my guy Skoronski from Northwestern, the tackle?
Yeah, I just needed to see more of him, man. He showed me something. What was it? They played Nebraska week 0. That's what we doing out here, week 0.
You gotta that's the appetizer. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, the biggest thing for him, for me, was his grip strength and being able to just drive people back. He showed me that in the Nebraska game. And that Nebraska defensive line, they got a couple guys that are going to be draft eligible and that are going to be names that are going to come up here shortly. So, I mean, he did what he was supposed to do, man. He held his own. And I think he had one bad snap that entire game.
I mean, and then of course, when you play the offensive tackle in particular, that one bad snap tends to stick out like a sword.
It looks bad, bro. It's like 10 snaps.
But in the grand scheme of things, when you're grading out offensive linemen, if you have one bad rep, you had a phenomenal game.
Yeah,
you had an amazing game. So let's switch gears a little bit before we move on to the Saturday slate in terms of games that we're focusing on as it pertains to 2023 draft prospects that we're really interested in seeing how they perform. You had a couple of HBCU prospects that you thought were noteworthy. Who might they be?
So you got Isaiah Land from FAMU. Anybody out here from FAMU? That's your school. He plays outside linebacker, edge for those guys. He was looking to transfer, and he decided, you know what, I'm gonna chill here. He had 19 sacks last year. He was if I'm not mistaken, he was the top player in the SWAC. That's how you say it? SWAC. I want to make sure I don't butcher it. Conference. No, he's not the MEAC. It's the MEAC. No, it's a SWAC. It's a SWAC. They switched. Fam switched. It's SWAC. Tyler Long, linebacker out of Norfolk State, is from the MEAC. And he had 11 tackles and 1 interception this past week. And he was preseason second team all MEAC, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, hit me down in the comments section, please. We're okay with being wrong. You know, we live in a world people don't want to be wrong. We're okay with being wrong. Just let us know. But yeah, every week we want to do this with the HBCU prospects. We want to give them boys a little love. Maybe we'll add a prospect or two, but we definitely want to give these guys love because they don't get the love that they should get.
Agreed. Let's move on to tomorrow's slate. Slate. Tennessee versus Pittsburgh. Who do you have your eyes on in this particular contest?
So you got Hendon Hooker, the quarterback for the Vols. I got Brian Young, edge, heavy hands. I love watching him. He was fun. He's actually really good in coverage as well. Then you have Kalijah Cansey. There's a short on the channel. Check that out. I think that's my best short. I think that's the one I like the most. To be honest with you. The music, everything, just the way it worked out, it was beautiful. He's a slimmer, smaller defensive tackle, but he's very, very quick. John Morgan, the edge, number 6, he balled last week against West Virginia. The guy in front of him, I can't think of his name right now. I'm drawing a blank. He came in for him, and John Morgan looked special, man. So that's a guy you got to be looking for against Tennessee. And then Keaton Slovis, I don't know if I butchered his name, but formerly of USC, quarterback. He transferred over to Pittsburgh. You know, Pittsburgh is going to want to run the football. They're not going to put it in the hands of Slovis. If it turns out this game has to be in Slovis's hands, look out. But they're going to be looking to run the football, and it's going to be a fun game to watch. I think this to me might be the Florida-Utah game of last week.
Interesting. I mean, Pittsburgh is always a difficult out. Pittsburgh is always well coached, and of course, they always have NFL talent. You understand what I'm saying? So this should be a very interesting contest. I agree with you. I think, as far as this quarterback class that we're anticipating, there are a lot of marquee names. Hendon Hooker is an interesting one. Yep. He really demonstrated, his skill set at a high level last year after transferring from Virginia Tech. And I think, if he manages to build on it, I think, you go to the Senior Bowl, you perform at Mobile.
I tell you, bro,
that can be the springboard that you need in order to really make your way and find a good landing spot at the NFL level. Of course, that always becomes a huge factor for any quarterback going from the collegiate ranks to the pros. Let's talk about Alabama, Texas, and of course, Alabama, as per usual, has a glut of NFL draft prospects to consider here. So let's focus on a handful there. But before you get to Alabama, let's talk about Bijan Robinson, running back from Texas. Probably the only running back that I'm anticipating that could find his way into the first round of the 2023 NFL draft.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody remembers the Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey draft. I think he's better than all of those running backs in that draft.
That's a special class. That's the 2016 class, if I'm not mistaken, or is it 2017? At any rate, that's a special class. That class included Fournette, Cook, McCaffrey, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, Chris Carson. I know I'm missing somebody else.
Yeah,
was Kamara in that class? I think Kamara was in that class. That's a deep and special class, and to consider Bijan Robinson better than a lot of them, that's amazing.
The speed, the burst, the vision. He's got
the hands out of the backfield.
He's got what we call vision. Would you like to let them know what vision is, real quick?
As Headley defines it, it is wiggle and vision. So the ability to make you miss with uncanny vision.
And listen, he don't need much space to make you miss. That's the thing. Some guys need to be out in the open field and all this. No. Small spaces, man.
The vertical cuts are sick. You know what I mean? It's reminiscent of some of those guys, like probably not quite as demonstrative as a Shady McCoy, but that type of elusiveness, that type of elusiveness once he gets to the second level for sure.
Yeah. All right. So, and let's talk about some of these Alabama guys. I mean, you could run we could be here all day with these guys, but we could talk about Bryce Young, which, for me right now, he's my top quarterback until he gets, demoted or someone can overtake him, I should say.
Right.
I keep saying this. I said it in the mocks that I've done. He's got the accolades, and someone's just got to dethrone him, man. He's willing to stay in the pocket, make the throw down the field, but he's also willing to do what CJ Stroud is not willing to do, which is run when it's there. You know what I mean? And he's the leader of that football team. And listen, it should be a hell of a year for him. The
creativity of Bryce Young is what's kind of separating him right now as compared to a CJ Stroud, for example. Right. Bryce Young isn't going to check all the boxes from a traits perspective necessarily.
Right.
But his feel, his knack for it, is kind of a la, when you start talking about a player and again, in this era, modern scouts are going to be focusing on traits, right? Like I said, he may not necessarily check all those boxes, but if he has the ability to manipulate the pocket and make those timely big plays, is unflappable, you know what I mean? Then we start having a conversation about Joe Burrow. Now we're talking about that type of quarterback who doesn't necessarily raise the level of play with, exceptional physical ability, but cerebralness, shrewdness, so on and so forth. So yeah, he that's what's separating him currently. I agree.
That's the position where physical traits you don't necessarily have to have them.
It's nice. I mean? It is nice.
Yeah. It's very
nice.
That's the icing on the cake.
Absolutely.
That's the cherry on top. The sprinkles, gummy bears, chocolate chips, whatever you throw on there. That's what it is. It's not necessary. Yeah, gummy bears. Although she liked the gummy bears, so she can have them. And then the top player coming out, Will Anderson. I mean,
what more can you say?
I mean, listen, he doesn't have all the tools that you want, but can you imagine a guy that just does his job, does it consistently? Did you watch Von Miller this past Thursday?
But that's why he's going to get picked apart, because there's already a lot of hoopla about him, right? Mm-hmm. You like that word, hoopla?
Yeah.
So Will Anderson doesn't have anywhere to go but down. The question becomes, can he maintain that top prospect? You know what I'm billing. That's really my question. And he can have a very good year, an excellent year.
Yep.
But people are going to look for and try to detract. So I'm curious as to whether or not he's going to be able to avoid the narrative stuff. I think he's going to play fine. I think obviously he projects very well, but I'm curious as to how that ultimately will play out.
Yeah, we got Henry To'oTo'o, the linebacker, number 10. By the way, if anybody didn't know, Will Anderson is an edge outside linebacker for Bama. Henry To'oTo'o, linebacker. He's very instinctual. When he sees it, he strikes and he goes and gets it. And he's actually really good in pass coverage as well. He could be the top linebacker. I don't think he's as flashy as a Trenton Simpson from Clemson.
Yeah.
But in terms of I would say from the linebacker position as a whole, I think he possibly could be the best linebacker in the country. But we'll see.
All right, we have your Gators going up against the Kentucky Wildcats. And there's an argument as to whether or not Kentucky's a basketball school or a football school now. And Kentucky has a quarterback in Will Levis that checks those traits boxes, certainly. So tell me what you think about Levis, and I'm sure there are going to be a ton of eyes on this particular quarterback matchup here.
Real quick, Calipari and Stoops were going at it, I guess, about the money within the school and where it should be going. But anyways,
politics. Yeah.
But Will Levis.
The trustees on board. I need those boosters. I need that bread.
Yeah, gotta have it. You know what I'm saying? I'm in the SEC. Hey. I gotta have it. You know what I mean?
NIL, man. You got.
That's it. Hey. That's it. That's it. But no, Will Levis. Last week he played against Miami of Ohio. For me, listen. The big things that I'm looking for from him, man, is what does he look like without Rondell? Was it Robinson? Wandell Robinson. Yep. Without Wandell Robinson, what does he look like? Because that dude took probably 60% of his catches, something like that. It was crazy. I think they have a guy on that roster right now, number 6, if I'm not mistaken. Is it Tavon Williams or Robinson? I can't remember. But he may be the replacement for Wandell Robinson. But Will Levis, strong arm, big, strong in the pocket, willing to stand in there, make the throw under pressure. Last year, I thought he ran a little bit too often for me to stay in the pocket and look downfield. So I'm looking for him to stay in the pocket. Although the tackles for Kentucky ain't that good right now. Miami of Ohio got off a little bit on Will Levis and the team. But I'm looking to see just for him to play a little bit more consistent in the pocket. But he has a beautiful deep ball. In terms of Kentucky's defense, they have 2 outstanding linebackers. Number 5, his last name is Baker. I can't think of his first name. I'm drawing a blank. And J.J. Weaver, number 13, outside linebacker edge, who's actually probably their best player. And they also have an outstanding guy in the middle there, number 0. I think his name is Walker. He's a freshman, but it's a guy to look for, and it might be a problem. But in terms of Florida, man, it's the AR show.
Simply put, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot more to it than the AR show.
I think Florida's gonna get him, and I think the D line for Florida should be getting off this week.
Gotcha. Okay, let's transition to the Baylor BYU matchup, and actually, it appears that a couple of guys that we were really excited to see aren't going to be playing.
Come on, don't tell me, bro.
Puka Nacua and Gunnar Romney. I still want you to talk about them a little bit, though, because we'll talk about those 2 individuals. Give me your thoughts on Blake Freeland, the talented offensive tackle for BYU as well, and then I'll actually want to share a video that we did about 3 weeks ago, your way too early mock draft 2.0, and the conversation we had about their quarterback, Jarren Hall.
Yeah. So I'll start with Blake Freeland, who I think is the best offensive tackle right now that I've watched. The only issue that I have with him really is he's 6'7", and he gives up. He's got to stay low. I don't know how you tell somebody 6'7" to stay low, but I need you to stay low because you give up a little too much, make things a little bit too easy, and you make it a little bit harder for yourself in terms of the run game. He's not a guy that's going to go in there and bowl people over. Standing at 6'7", you think he would kill somebody in terms of the run game, but he's not a mauler. He is a sealer. He'll seal you off. But I'm looking to see if he can become a guy who can maul folks. I was watching him against USF. I just don't think it's in him. But if he can seal folks off, I'll take it, man. You know what I mean? Because that feet, them hands, it's beautiful. They match up well. He's a dancing bear out there, 6'7", moving like he's 5'2", bro. You know what I mean? I don't know how you do it, but he does it. Puka and Gunner, big receivers, fast receivers. I think Gunner is the more outside guy, and I think Puka is. And I didn't know he was this fast, so I saw him run that end around. He actually did. I think he did it twice in that game. First play of the game, a USF game, end around, jet sweep, whatever you want to call it, out the gate. I didn't know he had that kind of speed, but he's a guy who will go up and get the football. And this is going to be an interesting game without those two guys.
All right. So before you get into your Jarren Hall analysis, I did, as I mentioned, wanted to share some of the conversation that we had about Jarren Hall, again, a few weeks ago during coverage of a mock draft. That's at couchpotatogm.com. That's www.couchpotatogm.com. Be sure to check out the website and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So bear with me just a second here.
Bro, can you just chill? Like, no.
Please, chill.
Let's walk it back a little bit. Why the New York rise for Jarren Hall?
Bruh, listen, some of these picks, I'm going to put it out here out front. Some of these picks I've made now, I've watched more tape. So
of course,
I've seen more of these players. Some of these players are brand new to me. And as I'm watching, I'm like, okay, I gotta slot them. And right now, he is quarterback 2 for me. Ooh. He is over Stroud. And, we'll get to Stroud here in a second in terms of why I like Hall over him. Again, he's not over Bryce Young yet. I want to go into the season. I want to give Young his nod. You know what I'm saying? He's got the accolades. But here for Seattle, he's very similar to Russell Wilson. I don't think that there's anything he can't do, man, at the quarterback position. You know what I mean? He can take off. He can extend plays. He turns his back to the defense. I will say that system that they're running at BYU isn't prototypical style, drop back. It's a little bit different in terms of how they do their play action, but he still turns his back to the defense, willing to make the throw down the field, put it in a place only his receiver can get it. He's a joy to watch. He's fun to watch, and I can't wait to watch BYU. And that's a little silly for me to say. Right?
Man, you got to see. Listen, see, this is the problem. This is the problem. This is the problem that you have. So you need to get like me, all right?
Watch that 2 a.m. football, bro.
Yes, get some Pac-12, Mountain West, late night.
Listen,
get that in your system.
Listen, sometimes you be drained at the end of it too, especially when you got a team that you've been watching. They let you down. You know what I mean? Like,
you just want to turn the TV
I need to walk away. I need to close my eyes on this. You know what I mean? So, but no, this year I'm definitely gonna be watching him. He's the guy I'm looking to see, the guy that can take it. There's a couple of quarterbacks I feel like. Listen, if they put it all together, I mean, it's. I mean, you might have teams trading up trying to get a guy, bro.
Sure. I mean, considering what we saw, in the 2022 class, right? We had Kayvon Thibodeau, we had Aiden Hutchinson pegged for the first overall pick, right? And then ultimately here comes Trayvon Walker, who has, by all accounts, been phenomenal. Certainly, he made several plays during his debut. We'll talk about a little bit more of that later on this week. You'll see a video covering the rookies and their debuts in the NFL. But that could be the way. It only takes one team, right? One team to fall in love with a particular player, and you seem to be a big fan of Jarren Hall. Before we move on, I gotta ask, at this juncture for you, Jarren Hall or Zach Wilson?
Dang, bro, put me on the spot.
Put you on the spot.
I like Jarren Hall. He's the safer play. He makes
I'm gonna leave it right there, Drew.
You're right there.
I'm gonna leave it right there. So Zach Wilson, a couple of drafts ago, went 2nd overall to the New York Jets. You like Jarren Hall more? Why?
Yep. Bro, did you not hear the video, bro?
No, I mean, I heard that, but for those who are just now joining the live,
okay,
tell them why you like Jarren Hall more than Zach Wilson. Who was your guy in that class? That was your preferred quarterback.
He was my preferred quarterback. Class. He's more athletic. And I think his ball placement is better. And I also think that he's a safer play. He's not going to, because you see Zach Wilson out there doing some crazy stuff, man. And Jarren Hall, he's not he's not going to throw it in the triple coverage. He's not going to try to squeeze it in there. He's going to make sure that's the throw he's supposed to make. I'm not going to say that he's a safe quarterback, but to the point where, he won't let the ball go, because he will. But he's not going to put the ball in harm's way, if you will.
Makes
and real quick,
all the sense in the world. Yep.
But before you move on, Baylor, BYU is going against a really good Baylor defense in terms of the coordinator, Ron Roberts. He coaches his guys up very well. There's some college football teams in terms of they have a couple of good pieces on the defense, one or two or three good guys on the defense, but the scheme, the way they coach it up, it's coached up very well, and it makes whoever they're playing, doesn't matter what talent they have on the other side in terms of the offense that they're playing, they play very well, and Baylor does that. And I was watching a lot of Baylor games this past year, and I think every game that they lost, and it wasn't many, they lost by like a point or two. It was a very close game, so this should be a very, very interesting matchup.
Definitely. And one more game, as we joked in that previous video regarding the Pac-12 after dark, we have a Pac-12 matchup with Stanford and USC. Caillou Blue Kelly, cornerback. There's some pro football lineage there. Jordan Addison, the transfer from Pittsburgh, very talented, explosive receiver, had a big week last week. And then Headley's guy, Tanner McKee, the quarterback from Stanford. What do you think about those three players?
So Blue, I was let me not butcher it. Blue Kelly. When I was looking at all the corners, he was actually my cornerback one until I ran into another cornerback.
Like a Cam Smith.
Yeah,
Julie Ringo.
Maybe. But yeah, he gets his hands on the ball. He attacks the football. I think he was tied for the most pass deflections in college football last year. So it's a guy you're looking to turn the football over and get his hands on the football. You got Jordan Addison, who is the Blitnikoff Award. I'll never remember the name of this. Yeah, he was the Blitnikoff Award winner. I'm not as high on Jordan Addison as everybody else. I want to see more. He's a guy who will go up and get the football. He'll turn bad balls into good balls. And it's probably a match made in heaven for him, man. Leaving Pittsburgh and heading over, he saw Slavish. He said, "Nah, I ain't with it. I head over here to USC with is it Caleb Williams and
Caleb, Lincoln Riley,
Riley and the boys, and it was a smart move, and it was all about the NIL, because it was USC, and it was it Texas, or I can't remember the other school, but he had a couple schools. It was between like three schools, and he made his decision with USC. Can't hate him for it. And then Tanner McKee, this is Headley's guy. Listen, that USC defense, they about to get tested this week, because this is a guy who points. Yeah, check your bets, over under, check it. Tanner McKee is a guy that Headley did like. He had him high, and is as far as I know, is a traditional drop back quarterback, and he's a guy who's going to get the football out and get it to his playmakers out in the open field.
Definitely. All right, Drew. I think I'm biased, obviously, but I would say that our maiden voyage in terms of a live broadcast went fairly well.
Yeah, man. Listen, we was going for 30 minutes. What are we at, bro? I'm looking at the clock.
We just shy of 45 minutes, which we can live with. We tend to be a little long-winded as it is.
We do.
But this was good stuff, man. So we'll be back. We'll be back next week, Friday. We will have Headley in tow, so it'll be a trio. Again, it's the second half draft show brought to you by Couch Potato General Manager. Be sure to check out the website, www.couchpotatogm.com, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, Couch Potato General Manager. For Drew,
hold on. No, wait, what? I gotta say it, bro.
Hold on. Go ahead.
Make sure that y'all share the video. Don't be selfish.
Don't be selfish, man. You know what I mean? That's it,
man. I know your parents taught y'all better. Come on now.
Get you guys next week. All right.
Later.